It's often said that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. If you think about it, it's quite the curious phrase. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. But it seems to be an acknowledgement of one of the fundamental truths of our life and of our faith. That the evil one often masks his work in what appears to be true and good and helpful. It's one of the great deceptions of the evil one. If we saw him as he truly was, he'd be easy to reject, this foul and ugly-looking creature. The reason why he's so powerful is that he's capable of masking his true self with something on the outside that appears to be good and holy and beautiful and enticing. And he can easily draw us away from God, not because we're malicious, not because we're evil, but because he is the great deceiver. And he can convince us that what we're doing is good, even when sometimes it's not. This is a fundamental truth of our faith. It's a fundamental truth of our lives. That goodness and the desire to be good is insufficient for eternal life and eternal love. That goodness and the desire to be good is not enough to bring us eternal joy. That's really important. It's important because the narrative of so many is, why is it? Why is it that I need God? Why do I need religion? Why do I need faith? Why should I go to church? As long as I'm good, as long as I'm a good person and do good things, that should be enough. But friends, the trick with goodness, divorced from God, is that we become its own arbiter. We decide what's good. We decide what's beneficial. We decide what's helpful. And when we become the arbiters of what is good, goodness becomes flawed because we are flawed. We are human. We make mistakes. Goodness finds its fullest and truest and most genuine expression when it's connected to the one who is the source and font of all goodness, Jesus Christ. He is the way, the truth, and the life, not us. And if we, in union with him, seek to follow after him, he will show us true and genuine goodness and peace and beauty. He will show us the way to eternal life. He will give us the gift of eternal love. If we allow his witness, his example, and his love to be the thing that guides and arbitrates our understanding of goodness, then we cannot fail. Then he will draw us to his very self. It sounds exciting and good, because it is, but it's also challenging. It's challenging because what the Lord calls us to, what the Lord invites us to in the life of faith is not always the easiest thing. It's not always the most intuitive thing. In fact, we all know that there are any number of moments when our desire to be a good person might not be the most helpful, because it might draw us away from God. There are moments we can deceive ourselves into thinking that we're being helpful but not doing what we need to do. Think of the person who has a friend who perhaps drinks a little bit too much, but I don't want to cause disruption. I don't want to cause animosity. I don't want to cause acrimony. So I'm just going to sit idly by and see how it goes. Think of a person whose parent or whose child is doing something that perhaps isn't the best for them, but we don't want to lose their love. We don't want to lose their friendship. We don't want to create hostility. And so we'll temper our thoughts, temper our actions, under the guise of being good. The Lord calls us to do difficult things because the Lord calls us to share and participate in His love, which at its core is self-sacrificial. It's the sort of love that leads one to offer one's life on the cross for the salvation of the world. It's a love that's constantly seeking to go outward, even when it causes some expense for us. That's not easy. There are any number of times when we can presume and think that in our goodness, I'll take care of my needs first before worrying about someone else. And so God gives Himself to us by His death and resurrection on the cross, through the sacrament of baptism, through the Eucharist, so that we might always live our life centered on Him. This is what the challenging beginning to today's gospel is all about. It's not that Jesus seeks us to be acrimonious with our parents or to be difficult with our children. It's not that Jesus calls us to hate our human relationships, but He seeks to remind us that those relationships, when divorced from Him, can only go so far. That paternal love, that the love of children for their parents finds its fullest expression and most meaningful expression when lived in union with the love of Christ. When we see those relationships as part of our relationship with God and in God. And God invites us into that relationship, as St. Paul reminds us in the Romans, first and foremost, through the sacrament of baptism. By the great gift He gives to us in the font of baptism, He pledges Himself to us. He pledges us the fullness of His love, the fullness of His grace. He pledges us the gift of salvation and makes us one of His adopted children. And in so doing, gives us the strength to journey through this world as one of His disciples, to see and understand goodness, not of our own accord, but through Him who is all good. And so as we gather for Eucharist this morning, as we humbly place ourselves in front of this altar to receive the Lord, body and blood, soul and divinity, may we open our hearts to Him to receive His grace, to receive His love, to receive His goodness. And may our reception of this sacrament give us the nourishment and the strength to live in union with Him all the days of our life, to see His love and His kingdom as the end of all things, to seek the kingdom that lasts forever, the love that never fails.